when there's like 50 women out on the ice and we're all within like, sight and earshot of each other, there's a lot of support in the way of like hooping and hollering. Like everyone's like, they catch fish, they're holding it up in the air, everyone's cheering.
Welcome to the Woman Angler and Adventurer podcast, inspiring real women with a passion for fishing and the outdoors to go get their adventure on. Now, here's your fearless host, Angie Scott.
Welcome back to another episode of the Woman Angler and Adventurer podcast. I hope you all had a safe and happy Christmas. I'm down in Florida as I'm recording this intro, and it was my first time ever experiencing Christmas in Florida. I have to say it's been a bit strange for me. People are out mowing their lawns on Christmas Eve. The day before that, we were soaking up the sun on the beach. I have to say I kind of love it. It's hard to think about ice fishing in this environment, but nonetheless, we're continuing the Breaking the Ice series and piggybacking on last week's episode, which featured Alicia Thompson, founder of the Ladies Midwest Meetup. As promised, this week, I'm featuring one of the participants from that event, Allison Ezel. Allison is actually from Missouri and works at the Bass Pro Shop headquarters in Springfield. She had never ice fished before when she joined up with the first Ladies Midwest Meetup event, but she loved it so much that she went back for the second year, and we're going to talk all about her experience on this week's episode. I think you're really going to enjoy it. Also, in case you missed it on Facebook, the accompanying article that I've been talking about, the Breaking the Ice feature article in Trailer Life magazine, has been posted online now, so you can go check that out. And I'll put a link to the article in the show notes for this episode. But first, please enjoy my conversation with Allison. Let's jump right in. Have you been to both, or just the second one, or both of them?
Yeah,
okay.
I was lucky enough to go at the beginning, and I really only had met one person, and she had posted him. I didn't follow Alicia, actually.
Okay.
I was one of her friends that she has gone kayak fishing for muskie with, that Caitlin Woodward.
Okay.
She posted something about it, and I reached out to her, and my boyfriend at the time was in Wisconsin. He came back, and I said, Caitlin just told me about this girl who's invited women to come up and go ice fishing. And he was like, "Oh, that's so you should go to that." And I was like, "Really? You don't care if I just like take off in January?" And he's like, "Do it." And so I emailed, I think, and just said, "I'm in." And that was it.
She might have been the one who told me about it. I don't know. I need to go back and find out, but so that's cool. And now, where are you from, first of all? Are you from that area, or?
Close by.
Okay.
I grew up over in Kansas, but it's the very southwest corner of Kansas. So it's right up against Missouri. It's technically still part of the Ozarks, which is, it's the bottom part of the Midwest. And that is only really like less than an hour and a half away from here.
Yep.
So I don't feel like I'm too far from.
Right.
I kind of claim Springfield because it's better well known.
Right. The bigger city. Yeah. So had you been ice fishing before this opportunity had come up? Had you had any experience with that?
No.
Okay.
None.
So what?
You're from Nashville, or
yeah.
You live in Nashville?
Well, I'm from Minnesota actually originally, but I moved to Nashville a little over 20 years ago. So I've been in Nashville for a long time, but I grew up in Minnesota, and I moved down here when I was 21. And what drew me down here was the music industry. So I work in the music business. Hence why I've been to Branson several times, actually, is kind of through my connections in the music industry, but I also have some friends that live there now. So, but I personally hadn't had much experience. Even growing up in Minnesota ice fishing, it just wasn't something that my family really did on a regular basis. My dad went every now and then, and he took us once when I was really little, and it was one of those deals where we're sitting on a bucket out in the middle of the lake with a hole, not catching anything. And I was like, yeah, I don't really get this, so it just wasn't anything I really did. And so I've probably ice fished more in the last couple years than I have in my whole life, but it's been kind of a different style where we've got the pop-up hubs, the insulated pop-up hubs, or an actual, hard shack. And so that's kind of a whole different level. And I'm like, okay, I get this,
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's what most people down here think of when I say ice fishing. They think they're sitting on a bucket out in the middle of the lake, very, very slow, very boring, very cold. Like they just don't get it.
Right.
Like they don't see the draw. And so when I kind of was like, I've shown pictures and stuff like that, they're like, oh, well, that looks like a lot of fun, actually. And I'm like, yeah, it's actually pretty great. So.
Yeah. So what was it about that first, when Caitlin reached out to you that first time about it, that like drew you and said, yes, I want to go do this?
Well, I have done some, solo trips, and then I had done some things. I had sort of started doing things with just women very intentionally. And, so this idea of like doing something totally new, and then it felt like a very safe space because it wasn't like a group of guys and girls, they're all going to be total strangers. But the fact, I guess, that they were all women felt I wasn't worried about, flying up there by myself and doing that. So I was very, inviting. And I really did think that everyone else was going to know each other. I thought that, because I knew Caitlin knew Alicia. And so I was kind of expecting to be this like new kid and be meeting everyone. And got to the house. There were a bunch of people already there, and we're kind of introducing ourselves and talking. And within about an hour, we all realized that none of us knew each other.
Wow.
That like everyone had come by themselves pretty much. And they were all nervous about being the new kid and like everyone else being friends already. And like, and so there were a couple of pairs of people, and then there were people who followed each other on Instagram, so they knew who they were. But there were very, very few people who'd actually ever met before.
Right. Wow. That is so awesome.
Yeah. So when we realized that, we were even more blown away. And I mean, I came from, of course, South Missouri, but there were people there from Wisconsin and Minnesota, but also Chicago and Ohio.
Okay.
So, I mean, it was actually pretty wide span.
Yeah. That's awesome. It's kind of reminding me of, I used to watch that show Big Brother, where they would like just pull all these people in on that, nobody knew each other, and then they got to like live in a house for however long. But I mean, at least you have this common interest in just the outdoors and experiences and doing something new for some people. I mean, how many people do you think were part of that didn't have much ice fishing experience prior to that opportunity?
I think that there were only 2 of us who had never ice fished before.
Okay. So what was the overall experience like? So once you all figured out, nobody really knew each other that well, how did that go?
Well, it was, everyone had, like you said, common interests. I mean, even those of us who had never ice fished before or hadn't done it much, we were all big outdoors women. And we all either hiked or hunted or fished. And so we definitely had things in common. Everyone was pretty young, actually. And then once we got going, I mean, of course, some people sort of, naturally kind of grouped up, but then we all split up at times. We'd sit with different people while we were out there. The second year it grew to over 50 people.
Mm-hmm.
But I definitely think there will probably always be just a little bit of a bond between us, like we're there the first year. And we were just shocked that it was 20. I mean, like, I still can't believe that Alicia basically just put something out on Facebook and Instagram and 20 people drove hours to get there. But no, she, the thing with it being all women is that even the ones who have done it a lot of them fish with their dads, their husbands, their brothers, and their friends.
Mm-hmm.
And most of them had never really been ice fishing with other women only. And so I think that with a lot of fishing, there are certain roles that the guys do, and then, they just seem to do that every time.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's like they're the ones that put up the ice shelter, or they're the ones that get the Vexlar turned on and the settings all figured out, or they're the ones that actually drive out on the ice and stuff like that. And with this, all that sort of role separation just went away. And so, like I said, the women who had ice fished many, many times before, they were even doing certain things that they'd never done themselves before, because their husbands were always the ones to do that task or something. So I thought that was really cool. That, like, seemed like everybody learned stuff. And then even the ones who were veterans and, really knew what they were doing and had done, this kind of stuff on their own before, they just sort of naturally became teachers for the rest of us.
Right. That's so cool.
Yeah.
I love that. I love that it kind of forced certain ones kind of out of their regular comfort zones, which is so cool, because what a perfect venue to do that in. Because, if you're used to your certain roles with your boyfriend or your spouse, to step over those lines might not work so well. But when you're out there with a different group of people, it's kind of like, that's such a great opportunity to experience that, because it's like, okay, they've seen it done probably many, many times, but they've never actually done it themselves. But they don't have that person like kind of breathing over their shoulder saying, you're not doing it the way I would do it, or,
Yeah.
So that's cool.
Yeah, exactly.
Were there any stories like, from that first year in particular that like pop out in your mind as a awesome memory?
I know this girl Renee caught a good pike, and she was, I think, the only one who did. The fishing the second year was a lot better.
Mm-hmm.
The fishing on the first year, the first spot was pretty slow. No one was really spotting anything. So then we actually ended up moving, and then after that, everyone started catching stuff. And it actually took me a while to catch something. And I think that I was just kind of, well, first of all, the bite in ice is so softer than bass or trout. And so I don't think I was feeling it. And I think that all I had to really do was like tug, and I probably would have caught fish, but I didn't even realize that a fish was on.
Yeah.
And, so after a while, Alicia was like, she made sure that Becca caught a fish and that I caught a fish, and so that first year, I think the only thing I caught, I caught some little bluegills.
Okay.
And so my second year, I was determined to catch, crappie and stuff like that. I didn't want to just catch little bluegill. This next year, my goal will be to catch something on a tip up. I haven't done that yet.
Oh, cool. Yeah, that would be fun. So you did catch crappie the second year, and I saw,
Yeah.
right? Is that where you caught the big one, the 14-inch? Was that during that event? That's awesome, because that's my goal. I've caught 2 14-inch crappie here on Percy Priest, but I want to get one that's just slightly over 14. That's my next goal. But to catch one ice fishing like that had to be an awesome experience.
Yeah, it was. I don't remember what I was saying before, but I remember the red on the little Vexlar was really fat. When I saw it coming up, I was like, oh my gosh. I was like, that's the one I want, and it actually came off, the lure popped off right at the top.
Mm-hmm.
It came loose, but it was just sort of, its head was already out of the water, and it just sort of sat there for a second, and I dove in off my chair, plunged my hands in there and flipped it out with the ice. And I just, I think I had a little GoPro going. So it's not a great video or anything, but I did go back and realized how badly I nerded out. I was just like freaking out over it.
Yeah, that's exciting. I mean, that 14 inch is a very nice crappie. So that's awesome.
From billion-dollar ad budgets and arena naming rights to tens of thousands of retail locations, big wireless providers spend big to appear like they're your only option. How do they afford it all? That big bill you get at the end of every month. Mint Mobile had a different idea. Instead of brick and mortar overhead, Mint Mobile is online only. What does that mean for you? A whole lot of savings, because wireless plans from Mint Mobile start at just $15 a month. That's unlimited talk, text, and data for just $15 a month. You'll save enough that you can get a brand new rod and reel for the upcoming season. For anyone who just hates their phone bill, Mint Mobile offers premium wireless for just $15 a month. All plans come with unlimited talk, text, and high-speed data delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. You can use your own phone with any Mint Mobile plan, and you can even keep your same phone number along with all of your existing contacts. By going online only and eliminating traditional costs of retail, Mint Mobile passes significant savings on to you. Switch to Mint Mobile and get premium wireless service starting at just $15 a month. To get your new wireless plan for just $15 a month and get the plan shipped to your door for free, go to mintmobile.com/waypoint. That's mintmobile.com/waypoint. Cut your wireless bill to $15 a month at mintmobile.com/waypoint.
What was it like learning the Vexlar? I remember when I was first kind of watching, I was like, how does this thing work? What do these colors mean? Do you remember what that was like, trying to figure that out?
Yeah, I had absolutely no idea going into it. Alicia would say, don't worry, we'll have everything you need. Just bring these items. And so I came pretty ill prepared as far as gear goes. And so when they gave me one of those to borrow, they're turning it on and showing, and I was just like, oh my gosh, we can actually see what's going on under there. And yeah, I was like, okay, well, this is like a video game,
right? Yeah, it's like video game fishing.
So,
yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Cool.
So it's been funny. I have explained it to a lot of people at work, and they always have these blank stares. They're like, I don't get what you're saying, but you can see the fish on the screen. And I was like, well, no, they're just little lines, and so I definitely have had a lot of people either say, I'm really jealous that you're going up there again, or you're crazy. I don't know how you can go up there in the freezing cold and sit outside and fish. And I said, well, it's actually really awesome. I mean, if you're prepared right, it's not cold at all. And that is true. We've had really nice weather both times, but I mean, you really don't get cold.
Right. If you're dressed appropriately, then yeah, you really don't.
Yeah.
But and then there's something about the camaraderie when you're out there on the ice and you're drilling the holes and you're finding the spots, you're drilling the holes, like all that stuff. What are your thoughts on that? Like, is there some words you can give to kind of describe to people like what that's like?
Well, and I've never been ice fishing with men, I don't really know how they act when they catch something. But I can tell you when there's like 50 women out on the ice and we're all within like, sight and earshot of each other, there's a lot of support in the way of like hooping and hollering.
Mm-hmm.
Like everyone's like, they catch fish, they're holding it up in the air, everyone's cheering. Especially when the tip ups, when flags are going up and people are running, anybody who can just drops their stuff and runs over there just to watch and see what they pull up. There was a girl, Shelby, who caught an enormous fish on her tip up this last year. And she just was surrounded by probably 20 girls with, phones and cameras taking her picture. And it was insanely supportive. Yeah. And I mean, they're just, no one didn't get along or anything like that. The way Alicia has it, there's a lot of time to socialize. And I do remember the first year, probably the most memorable thing we did as a group wasn't even on the ice. It was afterwards. We were out, just hanging out, and I don't even know what song it was, but everyone was dancing, and I was like, all right, I'm just going to walk through you guys. And I walked through with the camera, and everyone was just, dancing and singing. And it turned out just to be a really, really cute video. And it just showed that like we had only known each other for less than a day, and we were just having such a good time together.
Oh, so cool. Makes me want to go. I hope it gets to happen.
Are you gonna go this year?
I will. I definitely will. If it happens in 2021, I will definitely be there because that just sounds so amazing. And I was kind of FOMO the first couple years too. So, so yeah, definitely.
Well, I love the idea of, women supporting women. And I've probably done 10 or 12 trips or adventures where I'm either by myself or just with women. And it's just a completely different experience. Mm-hmm. And like I said, you learn in a different way. You definitely learn more. And like, as far as men going, like, we have a lot of men who are very supportive,
yes,
that we go and do these things. And I don't know what man wouldn't want the women in his life, whether it's his mom, his wife, his sisters, his daughters, to have the ability and the knowledge and the confidence to go out and do things like this and not be like in some sort of distress or at the mercy of needing help. Right. I think that when we as women want to go do things that we're a little intimidated by, there's always this like nagging question in the back of our mind, like, what if I need help? What if something goes wrong? What if I need somebody there who is stronger than me that can, lift something, carry something, fix something? And when we go and do these things, we realize that we're a lot more capable than we thought we were. Mm-hmm. And like you said, we don't learn by watching, we learn by doing. Mm-hmm. And so I think we've all come out of this with a lot more ability, a lot more trust. Where we get so intimidated by asking questions and having to rely on somebody. But what Alicia has done with this event is given at least 50 women a lot more confidence and a lot more skills. And even from that, she, I think, has inspired, other people to go out and do things. I know that from this, there have been some like spur events. Mm-hmm. And so whether it's, just one of the girls from this group inviting other girls to go out fishing. I know that's happened a lot. And that Christine Fisher, who everyone should know who she is.
Yes.
She was inspired by Alicia's event and put together kayak fishing.
Yeah.
And there were about 50 women from all over that came to that. And, you know, my favorite part about that, it didn't really happen on the ice, but it happened with this kayak event, was that we sat around in these cabins and we opened up our tackle boxes and just started asking questions that we're normally too, like, intimidated to ask anyone else or too embarrassed to ask. And so people are like holding up lures like, I don't know what this is. Like, what is this? How do I use it? Why is it in my tackle box? What am I even fishing for? And sometimes most of the people in the room had no idea, but one person might be like, I know what that is because I'm from Texas and we use this for that. And Christine would just go through lures and line and all different. She would just grab people's combos and just start talking about the difference between them and how, you know, what's good for what. And that's probably what I realized. Like, no one asks these questions until you get into this like very safe space.
Mm-hmm.
And then all of a sudden you're just like, I've always wondered this. I'm just going to ask it.
Right.
I don't care. And then you realize that everyone else has questions too, and we're all dying to get help. So like I said, they've been insanely supportive.
Awesome. That's so cool. I missed that event too. I had a conflict that week and I wanted to go so bad, and it's not that far for me. So I was totally like, oh, I need to go to that. And then I think it was one of my club tournaments. Now looking back, I probably would have skipped the club tournament and gone to that event. So hopefully that happens again as well, and I will definitely be there. But cool. Well, what do you think 2021 is going to bring for the event? Do you think it's going to even grow bigger? I mean, assuming it's able to happen, which I really hope it is, like exponential growth again.
I think that, you know, I know Alicia did everything herself the first year, and that was just a lot of work. And so I know some of the girls that live around her really chipped in and helped get everything set up before. So she had some help from them and from her family. I don't know how she's going to handle growth, like in terms of numbers.
Right.
I mean, she will have to have another Alicia in order to probably to keep growing it, but I'm sure she will figure that out. And so I don't know if she told you this, but a friend of mine, Ronnie Green, has a TV show with CBS Sports called A Fishing Story.
Yeah.
And he's actually supposed to come to next year's event, and they're going to film the event. And then the next day he's going to go ice fishing. It'll be his first time, and Alicia's going to teach him. Cool. And we'll film the episode, and he will interview her all about these events that she's put together.
Yeah. So. Oh, that would be awesome. I'm excited about that. Cool. Very cool.
So I don't know how many views she'll get, but I'm sure every time there's an article or an interview or something about her, I'm sure more and more people are going to be signing up. I know she's doing she's branched out into the kayak events this year too. So she's taken on more and more.
Well, good deal. Well, thank you once again. I sure, and it's great that we connected, you know. I love connecting with more and more women that are into fishing and all of that. So, very cool. And we'll definitely stay in touch.
Yes, for sure.
All
we'll
right.
go fishing or hiking if you want to do any hiking.
Yeah.
So good here.
Awesome. Thanks for listening to this week's episode. Remember, registration is open for the 2021 Ladies Midwest Meetup event on Lake Mille Lacs. I'll put a link to it in the show notes, and you can also check out that Breaking the Ice article in Trailer Life magazine on their website. Just go to thewomanangler.com/164 for the links. We'll be wrapping up the series next week, featuring a couple more amazing lady ice anglers, this time from the Woman Anglers of Minnesota group, so stay tuned for that. Enjoy what's left of 2020 and have a happy new year. We'll see you back here next week.